Dear friends, we're finally in Italy. We'll be here for the next 6 months, but I wanted to use the recent election of Mayor Mundani to look at some of the differences between politicians, which means man's kingdom, and Jesus, God's kingdom. And towards the end, I will also address some specific of what has happened with the recent elections. Now, how is it possible for a politician's campaign to succeed when the practical basis for the implementation of what is promised are completely missing? Compare that with someone who has a proven record of himself over and over and over again and has always delivered on what promised. How is it possible to forget the tragedy of 9/11 that killed over 3,000 innocent people and elect a proud socially Muslim? And compare that with someone sacrificed for the redemption of all humankind that is still remembered after 2,000 years. How is it possible that someone with a non-existent resume, a nobody, could be elected into power? Compare that with someone who has all the power that exists and decided to become a nobody. And that's the stark contrast between politics, suddenly smoke, and God's kingdom, true freedom. Today's power of social media and projected perception is so powerful. And Zoran Mundani took full advantage of it with his campaign, receiving the majority of the votes from young, progressive Palestinian sympathizers and women under 35 who barely remember the Twin Towers attack. And so, captivated by empty promises, they were easily misled, not doing proper due diligence. And why do I call them empty promises? I will point it out in a minute, but first, let me talk about the differences between politicians and Jesus. Politicians try to transform society from the outside in, using laws, votes, power, and control. Christ works the opposite way, transforming from the inside out. First, the heart of the individual, and then society as a whole. 2, politicians promise what they cannot deliver. They say, trust me, I will fix the problems, and then they let you down. Christ says, trust me, I will fix you first if you let me. Politicians gain influence by pleasing people and lying to win the public approval. Christ gained influence by proclaiming truth, even when he lost followers because he refused to compromise. 4, politicians rise by attacking opponents through humiliation, division, and accusations. Christ rose by dying for his enemies, even though he could have destroyed them. 5, politicians' victory is short-lived, lasting only a few years. Christ's victory is eternal. 6, politicians protect their image and invest in public relations. Christ emptied himself and invested in the cross. Lastly, politicians divide left, right, rich, poor, young, old, us, them. Christ breaks down walls to unify. We're one body in him. And that is why he says, seek first the kingdom of God and everything else will be added unto you. Instead, many of us put our hope in man's kingdom. But let's take a closer look at this man, Mundani. Though there is plenty of information out there, I just wanted to give you a few points. He campaigned proposing rent freezes for 4 years. And this concept has never worked in the past. So I don't know why it would work in the future. He promised free public transportation and childcare, funded by a 2% tax increase on those who earn over $1 million, and also by raising the corporate tax from 7.75% to 11.5%. So he's projecting a $9 billion increase to fund the dream. But the state of Maryland tried this back in 2007, expecting to raise an additional $106 million, but it actually cost the state $256 million because residents moved away. And already 800,000 people, or about roughly 9% of New York City population, plans to relocate. So there goes the budget. And besides that, Mundani doesn't have the authority to implement this without the approval from Governor Kathy Hochul, who, by the way, is launching her re-election campaign with the slogan, no tax increases. He wants to defund the police. 245 officers already left the city after he labeled the force as homophobic and racist. And under Rudy Giuliani, crime dropped 80% because of his obsession with creating a clean, safe, efficient city and investing in the police. He wants to open up some supermarkets that don't take profit in each of the 5 boroughs at the cost of 60 million each. But supermarket profit margin is only 2 to 2.5%, so this does not affect the bottom line much. But it will deprive, though, the outlets from inventory, as in communist countries. He wants to raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour. Well, California raised it to $20 an hour about a year ago, and 18,000 fast food businesses had to shut down or even relocate. But besides these utopic proposals, what struck me the most is this. How can a self-declared proud Muslim allocate $65 million for facilitating transgender surgeries in the city? Is he a true Muslim, or is he just a politician pulling the wool over the eyes of his Islamic friends? Or is he, in the true Islamic fashion, lying for the cause of Muhammad? How can a Muslim who openly supports Palestinians and was funded also by Hamas win votes in a city with one of the largest Jewish population in the world? Partially is PR, telling people what they want to hear and appeal to their emotions. Listen how he victimized his aunt, turning around the tragedy of 9/11.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
First of all, she wasn't his aunt at all, but his father's cousin. And she also didn't wear the jihad, the veil that has the covering, and wasn't in New York City after the towers fell. But people bought the act. Also, people who voted him already saw the changes from the campaign that was full of smiles and charm to what? To an angry, arrogant, dictatorial tone in his victory speech. And one that is followed also by the same tone in Times Square with his Muslim friends.
We're done hiding. We're done. We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be upon, of Islam. And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble. Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah!
This reminds me of a talk that I heard 17 years ago from a former Muslim Brotherhood member who actually converted to Christianity. And he said Sharia law thrives best in environments that are created by socialism and Marxism, where police no longer have authority, criminals are not prosecuted, society lives in chaos. And out of that chaos comes a hunger for strict order, precisely where Sharia law steps in. Friends, we're getting closer and closer to this scenario. And if we don't keep our eyes open and resist this plague, we will reach a point of no return in the name of inclusion. So may God have mercy on us all and grant us His wisdom. Love you. Catch you next week. Ciao.